There were so many great moments of deep strategy by Magnus Carlsen in this game, but I just want to highlight what happened right at the end. We did see Magnus in this position have complete dominance, and he did just try to box in this black rook right now. Black's rook on this square looking like the most active piece, the only active piece in the position, and Magnus found a deep way to trap that. He just stepped his pawn forward, blocking Black's pawn, and now after Black unable to find a move, just pushed pawns on the other side of the board, we did see Magnus give a check. He dropping back this bishop, and look at this piece. It's completely locked in. This rook now, I mean, it's barely, I mean, you'd probably rather just take it off the board. It's just not going to participate. And after one more move, Wesley just resigned. White is about to start taking pawns at his leisure. Black unable to move any piece without worsening his position. Magnus, he could even just say pass for the next 10 moves and he would be winning. Wesley So ended up resigning, despite the fact there's equal material on the board. So today's exchange of the day revolves around a very clever way that Wesley So found to exchange queens. In this position, Magnus trying to get a counterattack. He's just brought his knight to the side of the board. He's trying to open up the position to attack the white king. He's hoping to remove white's knight as a defender along this diagonal. But Wesley So found a very simple move first. He just played pawn takes pawn, check. The black rook recaptured, and this is where he managed to exchange queens. He first looked for the forcing move. You always got to look for checks and captures first in every position. He played queen takes rook check, sacrificing his queen temporarily. After black recaptured, he jumped in with his knight. A double attack, this is check, the black king attacked, and the black queen attacked at the same time. After black retreated, we saw the black queen fall, and this has exchanged queens, but in the process, white has also won a rook for a knight, and that imbalance was the deciding factor. Wesley So converting his advantage after this. Yes, and this game, so many ups and downs. Magnus came well prepared with a very rare opening idea. Yes, we have seen a lot of trades. Yes, we're straight into the endgame, but right now, white's pieces are fantastic. White with a great rook, great bishop, and a great knight. And actually, this was the moment I think Magnus let it slip. He should have just accelerated the play. He should have just pushed these pawns while he has the chance. He could have pushed one of these two pawns. Black's pieces are not ready to join the action. This bishop unable to move. This rook also trapped in the corner. Magnus would have had a big advantage, I feel, at least in practical terms, if he had pushed a pawn forward. Instead, he actually helped Wesley. He gave a check, letting the black king out of the box. That black king previously cut off, and suddenly we did see, after Magnus retreated his rook, attacking black's pawn, Wesley going active with his bishop. Suddenly the black pieces flooded out, and Wesley was able to hold the balance.
What happened?
We have to show it in more detail on the board, because Wesley So, he set up a devilish trap. This is so cunning from Wesley. In this position, it looks like white is actually in control. Black has a weak pawn here. It looks like that's a backward pawn which cannot move forward safely. But Wesley spotted that it can actually move forward. It can sacrifice itself. And this is where Magnus Carlsen just blundered. He captured this pawn with his knight. He can actually capture it with his pawn because of tension down this line. So capturing it with the knight, this is fine for white. But after black recaptured, actually, maybe here Magnus needed to spot a very clever move to stay in the game. He didn't find it. He needed to bring his rook to this square, temporarily sacrificing a knight. Instead, he played the most natural move in the position, the most tempting move. Magnus captured the knight with his queen. And this is where Wesley unleashed, dynamite on the board. He brought his rook across, a move that looks impossible again, sacrificing his rook. But suddenly Magnus realized that white is dead lost. If you just capture this rook, then after queen takes queen, white cannot recapture the black queen. White here, rook up, but there is a deadly checkmate on the board. White's king now trapped on its back rank. You can throw some rooks in the way, but that king is not going to survive. Black will just capture those white rooks. And with this trick, Wesley So won the white queen for just one rook and guided it to victory. So many twists and turns in this game alone. Wesley So actually should have been safe much earlier, but he took a timeout to play a pretty much useless move. Earlier on, he pushed this pawn forward, and that came back to bite him. He just gave Magnus a free move to improve, and suddenly black was in charge. Magnus never let that slip. If we just fast forward towards the end here, I just want to show how Magnus finished this off. Magnus with one extra pawn. We mentioned this pawn is going to win the game. It's completely paralyzing the white rook, which is stuck, blockading it. And Magnus, he finished this one off by offering a trade of rooks. He brought his rook across. A trade of rooks here would only help black. It would ease the task of this pawn running through and becoming a new queen. After Wesley ran away from that, Magnus insisted on the trade of rooks, bringing his rook down, and Wesley set one final trap. Wesley brought his bishop to this square. It looks like he's blundering a rook. It looks like he's losing a rook for free. But if Magnus had taken it, then suddenly bishop takes pawn, check, and suddenly white will capture the rook on the next move. Wesley would have won his pawn back and been right back in this game. Instead, Magnus, spotting the last trick, even with a few seconds on his clock, he blocked this bishop, he kicked this bishop away, and this caused Wesley to resign. Wesley has a bishop under attack and a rook under attack. There's no way to save them both.